The Toronto Raptors whoop the Indiana Pacers. They were up by as many as 27. They led for 99% of this game. And I was so sure that this game was going to be in the Raptors' favor that I called it at halftime. And I made this thumbnail and I made this graphic right before halftime. And I was like, man, oh man, if the Raptors end up actually losing this game, I'm going to have a lot of mud on my face. But this game was never in doubt. There is a mega talent gap between your best player and their best player. And I've been talking about it for years. I think Scotty Barnes and Brandon Ingram, you know, we can debate Brandon Ingram and Pascal Siakam. I don't think you can debate Scotty Barnes and Pascal Siakam. I don't think you could have debated it last year, the year before. But hey, man, Pascal Siakam won Eastern Conference Finals MVP on a team where he was in an optimal situation. Now you're seeing him in a not so optimal situation with still some very competitive, decent players. I'll remind you right now that the Raptors were down RJ Barrett, down Emmanuel Quickley, down Jakob Poeltl, down Jacoby Walter midway through the game. They also, by the way, they also were down Sandro Mamukelashvili. And then midway through the game, they're also down Jamison Battle, who started for them tonight. So it's like, okay, like, what are we doing here? We don't have a 7-footer. They got multiple 7-footers. We don't have a single 7-footer on our team. They got Pascal Siakam. They got Aaron Nesmith. They got TJ McConnell. Every one of those players would have started for you tonight. If I'm being honest, every one of those players. Are you telling me Andrew Nemhard wouldn't have started for you tonight? Pascal wouldn't have started for you tonight? Jay Huff wouldn't have started for you tonight? Aaron Nesmith wouldn't have started for you tonight? Let's just be for real now. Yes, it's so easy to dismiss a win like this, as convincing as it was, when you don't think about it all the way through. This is not an Indiana team that is a good team. I'll give you that. They're trying to lose games, whatever. Does not dismiss how the Raptors played. It does not dismiss which Raptors played well. And speaking of which Raptors played well, I think CMB, Jamal Shed were awesome. I think Grady Dick was very, very good. And I think that Scotty Barnes and Brandon Ingram were perfect. Basically, perfect basketball tonight from those two, with very few exceptions. Grady absolutely, he had himself a game, and I think he needed it. Given the way that his game has been going and progressing the last few weeks, it's been increasingly common to see Raptor fans just throwing him into trades. I've thrown him into a handful. I'm guilty of it too. But you see a game like tonight where you see him utilized as a rebounder, screener, and you see all 6'8" of him. You know what I mean? You see all 6'8" of Grady Dick. Pause. And you start to, notice I didn't say 6'7". I said 6'8". You see all of it, and you're just like, if he could play with this verve, this confidence, this energy level, sometimes it just feels like he's fighting quicksand, right? Sometimes it just feels like he's fighting an uphill battle against himself. And I just feel like tonight he played a lot freer because there's really nobody behind him. Who is coming in behind him? The Raptors end up going with Grady Dick, Ochai Baji. Let's just see here for a sec. So first of all, absolutely crazy, but it is true. The Toronto Raptors just picked up their 25th win of the season. That's crazy. Absolutely insane. So the Raptors are now 25-17. They are about to go on an extended road trip at some point here. So, you need these wins. You need these wins. Now, it's worth noting that in a game where you won by 14, your leading scorer, Brandon Ingram, actually managed to be +0. It's also worth noting that he is the only player who was really +0. Elijah Martin, who has consistently been the first player off the bench for Darko the last couple of games, he ends up being the fourth player off the bench, and he ends up getting a very limited run with a very short leash of 7 minutes. Wasn't as impressive a performance from him tonight, but overall, cool. The story of this game is not necessarily Brandon Ingram, even though I will concede that those 2 threes that he hit in the fourth quarter late when it was a 4-point game, and Jamal Shed, then Ingram, you definitely needed his shot making tonight. But I think this game came down to Scotty being your point guard and Jamal Shed being your point guard. And when Jamal Shed went to the bench, it was Scotty running point, and I love those minutes for the Toronto Raptors. Again, Scotty tonight, Jamison Battle was also incredible in the 20 minutes that he did play. As I mentioned, Grady Dick was really cool tonight. AJ Lawson in a game that you win by 14 was -18 in his 17 minutes. A little bit of just being on the wrong side of a run in that fourth quarter when the Indiana Pacers kind of stormed back. I don't really think that's really on him playing poorly, but I do think him being on the court changed how the Raptors were attacking the zone, and I do think that that contributes heavily into how how useful players like him and perhaps Elijah Martin, Jonathan Mobo, even CMB, if he's not playing as great defensively as he is, are against a team that is zoning up on you. Because again, what Jack Armstrong did a pretty good job of explaining it in the broadcast. What is it that teams want you to do and not want you to do in the zone? They don't want you to get to the basket and they want you to settle for threes. And yes, AJ Lawson settling for threes is not scaring anybody. Uh, Jonathan Mobo's, taking threes, not scaring anybody. CMB taking threes, not scaring anybody. So really, I mean, Jamal Shed taking threes, not scaring anybody. You're fighting a pretty uphill battle here tonight. So I think overall, you need to give some credit to the team that played harder tonight. And the Raptors came out and said, "This is the second half of our season. We are starting the second half of our season on the right note." And early on, that looked like a lot of threes going in. That looked like a lot of confidence on the defensive end. That looked like a lot of motor, first effort, second effort. Midway through the second quarter, they run out of steam a little bit. This is a team that got out to an 11-2 start, 11-2 start, and then they never, ever conceded the lead. There was no let up. There was a pause where, okay, maybe in the second quarter, you could argue the Raptors did give up a little bit of momentum. After leading 39-18 in the first quarter, they ended up losing the second quarter by 2 points. They ended up losing the third quarter by 3 points, and then they ended up winning the third. They ended up losing the fourth quarter by 2 points. But again, none of this really matters because you won the first quarter by 21 points. You know what I mean? But in and of itself, I think there were stretches of play within even the quarters that you lost in the second, third, and fourth that were extremely inspiring. Extremely inspiring. And yes, again, I understand that there is some person out there who's just like, it's the Indiana Pacers. It doesn't matter. But just ask yourself the flipped question. Just flip the question around and say, if the Raptors had lost this game, what would you be saying about the Toronto Raptors tonight? And I guarantee you, 90% of you, even as positive as I believe this community is, as forward thinking as this community is, I guarantee you 90% of you would be like, trade half the team. Scotty's a bum. Brandon Ingram's overrated. Grady Dick is, send Grady to Alcatraz, et cetera, et cetera. So you got to give teams credit for when, they go out on the road massively undermanned and undersized and fight tooth and nail and deliver you this convincing of a win. And this is not some, typical Raptors, get behind 15, 16 points and then storm back when the other team kind of lets up. No, this is you punch first, you punch second, you punch third. They fought back a little bit, but you punched last. And I just really thought that this game showed so much of what I was talking about yesterday with Brian Macon. So, first of all, I just want to do a little little bit of an announcement here. So, yesterday, ended up doing an interview with Scotty's trainer, Brian Macon. Unfortunately, that's going to take me about 6 to 7 days to edit because I got to edit a whole bunch of B-roll. I got to introduce like a whole bunch of clips of the gem. I got to, do a lot of Scotty film, breakdown and stuff and include it. So when he's talking about Scotty's game, we can actually include the clips that he's sort of referencing. And that's going to take a little while because I'm also, I got the panel and I got this and I got the lives and I got all that stuff. Right. But for our members, I'm glad to tell you that video is now member exclusive, uncut. So without the edits, without anything. So if you just want to listen to what Brian and I talked about for 52 minutes, you can just have the entire interview. Obviously, if you're not a member, hang tight for 6 days. It's nothing like breaking news or anything, but it's just it's a nice little perk to be able to say thank you to the people who have supported this channel in that, extra way. So thank you guys so much for that. It was a great conversation. And to those of you who've already watched it, I'm sure that a lot of what Scotty did today came through in that interview because we talked about a lot of it. We talked a lot about the dribble manipulation. We talked a lot about being more secure with the handle. We already talked, we definitely talked about, getting to the second level, reading the defense, etc. So yeah. Tyler later said, "Did you interview Jacoby's trainer already?" Yeah, we're actually really good friends. So we will probably do an interview. Maybe I don't know. We'll probably do a year-end interview. Yeah. Anyways, okay. So let's get to what the Pacers did tonight. I don't think they had any really commendable performances. I mean, Pascal's 26 points felt very empty, if I'm being honest. And I promise I hate watching or anything. It just felt like, it was a lot of settling. It was a lot of settling for jumpers. It wasn't a very commanding presence. I feel like he got thoroughly outplayed by both Scotty and BI. And it's kind of interesting that the Eastern Conference Finals, MVP from last year was not even he wasn't even the second best 6'9" playmaker on the court tonight. You know what I mean? That's interesting. So I think BI and Scotty had his number. I think defensively he was a little bit compromised. Absolutely vote for your boy Scotty Barnes. I think it's triple vote today. So I already voted twice today with two different accounts. Don't sue me NBA.com. So definitely get out there and vote. If a performance like this doesn't get you to vote, I don't know what's going to get you to vote, but yeah. In terms of what the Raptors got from their players, they got 30 points on 23 shots from Brandon Ingram. They got a very commanding 26 points, 13 assists, 7 rebounds from Scotty Barnes, including 3 stocks and a plus 14. Uncharacteristic 5 for 9 from the free throw line. We were literally just talking about this yesterday with Brian about, his progression from the free throw line. And I'm just like, man, that video is not even public yet. And we already jinxed his free throw shooting. This was the worst. I would argue this is the worst free throw shooting game that he's had all year. And 5 for 9 ain't even that bad. Colin Murray Boyles, again, the box score is not going to tell you 10 points, 10 rebounds, but plus 23 absolutely felt that plus 23. The Raptors were so much better defensively with him out there. He shores up so much. He makes the Raptors so much more difficult to score on. He cleans up. He shrinks the floor. He rotates extremely well. He's extremely positionally versatile. Yes, sometimes, you're going to get guys just going over him because there are some issues there. There were a few plays tonight where, being a couple of inches taller, maybe a little bit more bouncy, would have helped him finish at the rim. He's going to have to learn his angles, but I am very impressed with his rookie season so far, and there's nothing, but good things to say about Colin Murray Boyles tonight. Jamal Shed, another, not so great box score game, 2 for 9, 1 3, but he hit the one that counted, 6 assists, 7 points. But man, he is so incredibly poised, and he understands specifically how to get out of the way and allow his better players to create. And I think that is one of his greatest gifts, is that he plays to win. He doesn't play for stats. He's not playing for his shots. He takes the shots that come to him. A lot of times, people look at Jamal Shed's numbers and they say, well, how can, this guy's shooting 40% from here and he's shooting 20% from here. And I'm just like, do you see how many times he bails out the Raptors offense because he's the guy that people throw it to with 2 seconds to go and he has to take a bailout shot? It's very often, like 90% of the time, to say this for a second-year player is very rare. 90% of the time, he does the right thing. Now, there are plays where you get a vision of what could be, when the jump shot's going in, when his downhill attack is going in a little bit, when that floater shot is going in. But man, trust the kid who does the work, right? Trust the guy who grinds. Trust the guy, who was a winner in college and is a winner in the NBA. This is just a dude that you rock with. right? And it's so interesting to see him going up against TJ McConnell because I see so many shades of TJ McConnell in his game. And it was nice to see him give him a little bit of, you know, little, in the, just finish on him. It was good. It was good to see, man. I loved it. I loved Jabansha, man. It's just, look, you got to empathize with me too, right? I cover a team that has Emmanuel Quickley as a starting point guard, and I don't think Emmanuel Quickley is a point guard, but I don't know, man. They insist he's a point guard. They run possessions with him like he's a point guard. And I swear to God, like tonight, you just see how freely the ball moved. Now, of course, part of why the ball moves so freely is because you're playing one of the worst defenses in modern history. That's part of it, yeah. But that's not all of it. That's part of it. It can't be all of it. Because there's a lot of teams that have played against the Indiana Pacers and it's been kind of close, right? If I looked at I mean, if you want to just take a look at the Indiana Pacers for a second here, one sec, pull this up. So, Indiana's schedule this year, take a look. I mean, there's a lot of losses, but this is a team that is coming off 3 straight wins. They just beat Charlotte, Miami, and Boston. Okay. So, this is a team that's feeling pretty good about themselves. Coming into this game, they had won 3 straight. Vegas favored them to win this game. Okay. I've said it many times. It's not about who you face, it's when you face them. And facing a team like this that's feeling good about themselves when you are undermanned on the road, I'm sorry. Like there is a very, very realistic chance that if you don't play as hard as you did tonight, you lose this game. So shout outs to the Raptors, commendable for sure. Let's take a look at the team stats tonight. Again, the Pacers get to the line a little bit more than the Raptors. I think that's partially because the refs were a little bit slanted. The Raptors do a pretty good job of holding the shooters to 29% from 3. I think part of that is just their shooting talent is not the greatest. That's part of it. You don't become one of the worst teams in the league by having gunners across the board. But, good job on the Raptors. They contested well on shooters. They located shooters much better than they typically do. I think a lot of players participated in that. Ingram, Barnes, CMB, Grady, Ochai even, and we got a pretty okay game from Ochai Baji, but I think it was just sort of mixed, right? It started out really well with the shot making. He does hit multiple threes, which is like I can't remember the last time I saw Ochai Baji hit multiple threes in a game. But then there were so many bonehead plays, right? There's so many silly fouls. There's that play at the end of the first half where he charges like right into Andrew Nemhard, and it's just like, bro, stop. So it's just like at this point, the game hasn't really slowed down for Ochai Baji. You see the talent, you see the athleticism, you see the fluidity. I just don't think like his brain has slowed down. You know what I mean? For the game. Like typically when you get like you can see it, you can see it happening in real time for Scotty. You can see it happening for CMB. You can sometimes see it with Grady, although he's still rushing through a lot of stuff. You could definitely see it with CMB. You can sometimes see it even with Elijah Martin, game by game, it slows down a little bit. But I think there's a couple of players that just rush a lot of things on this team. And I think Ochai Baji is one of those players that just, he rushes a lot. He rushes his possessions a little bit. So there's just needs to be a little bit more of a calm with him. And yeah. So let's take a look at the film session, man. Like a lot of Scotty tonight. I apologize in advance. He is my favorite player, and he just had a really good game. But we'll look at the full spectrum of what went on tonight. But man, I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Scotty Barnes a lot tonight, because Point Scotty has always been a bit of a revelation for me. Every time he does it, there's always something positive that comes out of it. Here, the Raptors get off to a pretty solid start here. Brandon Ingram, a lot of shots like this tonight for Ingram, right? Not always to the benefit of the team, if I'm being honest. Like there were a few plays where it's just like maybe they went a little bit too much into it. But oh my Lord. Here we go. Why are we having lag? Come on. Come on, X. Don't do this. Ugh. Give me one sec, guys. X has these moments, especially on desktop, where it just occasionally, especially when you load up too close. Okay, we'll skip that. Oh, so we're just gonna do this for all Scotty plays. Cool. That's nice. Scotty had himself a first quarter. Like, this is how you want a franchise player to start out a game. Uh, Jay saying, "Rob, will you be taking calls later on?" Yes, I will. Yes, I will. I apologize for the technical difficulties. I blame Elon Musk for this completely. Um, Here we go. So, look, a lot of what I talked about yesterday with Scotty's trainer is basically manipulation in the middle of the court, right? This is the superstar trait, is what you want. How do you handle the first defender and the second defender? Now, here, the second defender is not going to come, so it's not going to matter too much. You just take Jay Huff off the dribble. It's a pretty big guy. That's a pretty good, solid contest, but Scotty is a good enough shooter to just hit that shot. I don't think, um, sorry, just give me one sec here. Okay. Okay, let's just look at all of them here. So here's 3 plays from Scotty Barnes in the first quarter, and just take a look at what I'm talking about here. Here, attack, take the bump. Now, exactly here, and again, I apologize if I'm gonna be very training focused right now, but you'll have to understand that I just had this discussion with Brian yesterday. So I was hyper focused on the training side of basketball when I was watching Scotty, BI, and everybody today. So take a look at this play right here. Now, right here, there is a temptation to pick up your dribble because you've been bumped. And uh, I am Chris YT said, "Crows all the browser tabs you won't be using in this live." Okay, give me one sec. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I have now closed every single browser tab that I will not be using in this live. Let's see if this works. Okay, so here there's a there's a cohesion to this entire move, a fluidity. I can guarantee you if I pull up a play exactly like this where he bumps 2 years ago, even in his all-star year, he is doing something very awkward in this situation. It's everything with straight line drives. So here, look at the footwork on that right foot, and then to step back sort of and just balance yourself out. So again, like when there's a lot of motion, Scotty gets off balance. And here you see he gets a little bit low. So he does that thing that everyone says he can't do, which is he gets his shoulder below the defender's shoulder, right? He drives into, now granted, he doesn't blow past him. Okay. Neesmith's a good defender, but here he's able to come back. Wait, is that Neesmith? Yeah, it is. Okay. And here, the play that we looked at before, where he's just going to attack Jay Huff. Huff plays the drive. Scotty notices it. Boom, pull up. Right now, here, just hitting a three. You know, if you're going to back off, he checks his feet here. I'd prefer he not do that and just hits the three. Scotty was off to an incredible first half. And I don't even think his scoring was like the main thing that you would be impressed by tonight because I think it was his passing. Here, look at the transition play. Now, I think 5 of his first 9 assists were to Grady Dick. And I think he and Jamal Shed really looked for Grady Dick tonight. And I think it made a big difference. Now, watch this. This is 100% what a point guard should do. Now, watch how he's scanning the court. Scan, scan, scan. Now, look at this turn to Grady Dick here. And he is going to direct Grady Dick into position. You see the hand point. Boom. Grady reads the situation, doesn't read it, says fuck it, and just decides, boom, I'm going to go for it. Now, what did he want to do and what opened up? He wanted Hang on. Let's just see this here 1 sec. I'm thinking what he wanted was for Grady to cut through the middle and take his defender with him. When he didn't do that, I'm thinking when I was watching this, is he trying to run a dribble handoff with Grady coming off the handoff on the right corner? But here they open up middle so much that he just decides to take an audible here and then dumps this off to Colin Murray Boyles, which was just eesh, great. Yeah, there's also the possibility that he wanted Grady to cut middle, but I think what happened was the right thing. Good job by Ochai Agbaji here defensively. And again, this is the stuff that you talk about with the tools, right? There's not a lot of 6'5" wings who have the length and frankly just the timing to be able to block this. Here he does, and Colin Murray Boyles. I've just been so impressed over the last a couple of games with Colin Murray Boyles' decision making and transition and how quickly they don't call the foul. Ochai misses, then they do call the foul. Now, this is kind of a cool play because it involves your three last lottery picks. Watch Colin Murray Boyles fighting Pascal Siakam for position, bodying up on him, and then backing off and not allowing Siakam to rip through, right? Because again, you sometimes see it with a lot of rookies. They get very eager on defense. CMB is not trying to be a hero on defense. He's trying to contain the basketball. And here, he knows he's not guarding Steph Curry. He's guarding Pascal Siakam. And look at the contest. It's a beautiful contest. There's a big reason why Pascal misses that shot clear of the rim. Here, Grady is going to miss this. Now, here comes Scotty and Grady, the connection. Now, Scotty is going to read the mismatch here. Andrew Nemhard can't guard me. Frankly, nobody on the Pacers can guard Scotty Barnes, which is why he consistently puts up such great points on this team because they don't have a matchup for him. But here, they're going to try to put one of their reputationally better defenders on him in Andrew Nemhard, who's 6'3". Scotty says, okay, 6'3", I'm going to have the best advantage by putting the ball in the post and forcing the double team. Here comes the double team from Shepherd, and immediately the pass goes out to Grady Dick, and it's bam, it's a shot. And these are some of the easiest looks that Grady's had all year, frankly. It's just absolutely. Okay, well, apparently closing all the browser tabs didn't open up everything. Okay. Now, I really like this play because very often what happens with end of clock possessions, end of quarter possessions is Ingram ends up having to take the final shot or choosing to take the final shot. And I think once the data came out that he was so incredibly inefficient in these situations, I think once they had about 25 games of sample size, there has been a mega adjustment in terms of how Brandon Ingram is reading blitz on, end of quarter closeouts. And here you do get the defense reacting very high. You do have the paint opening up. You do have Scotty cutting through. And here, Ochai Agbaji going downhill with Scotty cutting down middle creates this wide open Scotty at the dunker spot play. And Jarris Watts, I think that's, I apologize. Aaron Neesmith is just able to draw this charge on Ochai Agbaji. So it's just like, at what point, if you're Ochai Agbaji, do you have an obligation to stop? I mean, right here, right? Can you walk and chew bubble gum at the same time? Like, you can't just be barreling over dudes. Like, that's a pretty blatant, obvious. He didn't come under you. Like, he was pining to take that. Like, you can see it. He steps up here. Like, you have downhill momentum, but you need to be able to stop. And there's nothing added here. You just lose 2 points for absolutely no reason whatsoever. So, sucks. Said dribble handoff leads to an easy finish. Here, Scotty Barnes slipping. Ingram made a really, really solid point to convince Rick Carlisle in the second half. Johnny Furphy can't guard me. Just told him over and over again, he can't guard me. And here, Ingram over Furphy. Maybe they thought, hey, Furphy's pretty athletic. He's 6'8". Maybe that's our best matchup for Ingram. Certainly not a good matchup for Barnes, just not strong enough. But maybe for Ingram, we can make that, something viable. And I just don't think it was a great matchup. I'm not really sure what I would do with Ingram, but I would probably put a more tenacious, I'd probably put Aaron Nesmith on him, to be honest. I would. Okay. Scotty Barnes. Again, you're drawing one of the better defenders, better wing defenders in the league. Granted, they're not a great defense, but Jay Huff at the rim and Aaron Nesmith one-on-one isolation, these are still hard defensive matchups for any individual scorer, right? Like it's possible for like consider the Raptors over the last couple of years. Like 2 years ago, the Raptors weren't a good defense. It doesn't mean that scoring on Scotty Barnes was easy, right? The Indiana Pacers are not a good defense, but scoring on Jay Huff at the rim and scoring on Aaron Nesmith on an island in this possession is not easy. But here, Scotty makes it look so easy. Look at the elevation space that he generates on this shot. Just imagine when that becomes automatic for him. Just imagine, right? And I said, let's go. I love this play. Loved it. CMB to Scotty. Scotty, perfect. Now, again, this is just the maturity of his game. The willingness to accept, to invite doubles, to get into this position where he is going to take this double. He's inviting the double. Now, there is a difference between getting blitz, getting doubled, and inviting a double. He is taking this play on to get doubled. You're forcing a mismatch to invite the double. This is the manipulation of the defense that LeBron is so good at, that Luke is so good at. This is what all great scorers are really good at. They're good at reading the second and third levels of the defense. And here, Scotty Barnes invites this double team. Here, Siakam is going to have to commit to protecting the rim. And I think most Raptor fans know he's not about to do this. And Scotty just delivers a perfect pass to Ingram, and Ingram cuts. And a lot of times that the Raptors zone, inefficiencies come up, it's because no one is willing to make that play. No one is willing to get into the middle of the court and then cut. I said Grady thinks he's Larry tonight. Look at the confidence with which he just walked into this. It's a good defender. Aaron Nesmith's a good defender. One dribble, boof. And this should be automatic. And it's funny because Grady's probably more comfortable from mid-range than people want to admit. They force him to hit all these threes, take threes, whatever, but look at when he was most efficient last year. It's when he was shooting in the mid-range. So if the Raptors do end up trading RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley, etc., and they end up keeping Grady Dick, I would love to see a role in which Grady is allowed to take more mid-range shots, right? Because last year, if you remember early in the season, it was him and RJ cooking, and it was a lot of him in the mid-range, a lot of him step backs. He has been typecast into this white Corey Kispert clone. He's just not that player. That's not who he is. You're taking away from what effectively is a pretty interesting, overall score. And I mean, again, there's a chance that if all of this actually comes together, I mean, we're hearing all these rumors that he's the first guy in the gym tonight. The first guy in the gym today. Scotty's mentioned it many times. He works super hard on his defense. If this guy actually does, and he's still so young, if he actually puts this together, this is like a legit problem player, right? Like this is a scorer. This is not a shooter. This is a scorer. And tonight, I think against this sort of lax defense, he feeling good about himself. I think you got a much better look at what this could look like maybe in the future. Maybe Jamal Shed pushing it into TJ McConnell and challenging J Huff at the rim. Beautiful. Love to see it. He only hit 2 shots tonight. That's one of them. And then that 3, the most timely 3 of the game, if I'm being honest. Pacers were down only 4, and the crowd was getting into it. Jamal Shed just shut them the hell up, hitting that 3. They say 2 points, not 2 points. That's that old LeBron quote, 2 points is not 2 points. Well, I'll tell you 3 points is not 3 points because the three-point shot that Jamal Shed hit was the most valuable three of the entire night for the Raptors, in my opinion. Here I said no other star is officiated this way. Take a look, man. How many fouls is this? Count the fouls. That's 1 foul, 2 foul. That's 3 fouls, and that's 4 fucking fouls. And still, Scotty had to miss this shot for them to call the foul. It's pretty ridiculous that you have a former All-Star who's about to be a two-time All-Star, in my opinion, who is refereed this way. And again, I'm used to it with Giannis, but I just don't. I think with Scotty is even worse. Okay, watch this. I said Scotty is learning to slow down. This is beautiful. Grady screen opens up Scotty at the rim. Now, I'm going to focus on one micro detail of this drive, and it's going to be right. Hold on. Freeze, freeze, freeze. Right here. Scotty is as his trainer described yesterday, he is a long strider, right? He has mega long legs, and that's a great gift in transition. In the half court, having super long legs and super long arms can sometimes be a bit of a hindrance because sometimes you need these half steps, right? These sort of quarter steps. And I think that hang on 1 second. So I think that this is the change in his game because watch his strides. So watch every single step and just focus the stride on his feet the whole way through. Just focus on his feet. So there's step one. Let me slow this down completely because I feel like if I play this at full speed, we're just never gonna see it. Okay. So that's step one, step two, step three. You're seeing these wide steps, right? But watch here as the defender, Johnny Furphy, steps up into the driving lane. How do you get him out of the way? It's that step right there. That little half step right there gets Furphy out of the way. And then we take this different path to the basket and we redirect and get the dunk. Did you see it? I'll play it again in real time. Just watch what I'm talking about. There is a slight change of pace to his drive, which again, I promise you, this seems so simple for guards, but for wings and bigs, this is super frigging weird to compute. And for Scotty, a player who kind of goes one motion one way all the time, he's really going to benefit if this is a permanent part of his game going forward. Watch this. There's just so much more fluidity. There's so much more control of the basketball. He's so much lower and he's just boom. Watch that. Boom. Up. See, there's a rhythm to basketball, right? There's a rhythm. You take a step, I take a step. You take a step, I take a step. You take a half step, I'm off rhythm, right? What is your advantage? Scotty's advantage is length and size and strength. Okay, but you can't go through everybody. This isn't high school anymore. So now in the NBA, he's having to learn how to manipulate the defense, right? And manipulating the defense is not going all one direction all the time at the defense. You're not Shaquille O'Neal. You're not going to be able to do this. And so there has to be change of direction, change of pace. There has to be a manipulation. And it can't be rote. It can't be prescripted. It cannot be, I'm going to go half step on my fourth step because that's where you go into Joey Graham problems, right? You go into Ochai Abaji problems. There's a natural rhythm to your offense, and the defense picks up on that rhythm. So once they pick up on your rhythm and your tendencies, then everything you're going to do becomes much easier to predict. So the whole game between offense and defense, cat and mouse, is how do I throw you off of what you think I'm going to do? And if all I can do is all one step, one way, like if I can only finish my left hand, I'm way more predictable. You're seeing it this year. Scotty will go to his left hand. When the left hand becomes available, when they play the right hand, he goes to the left hand. When they play the left hand, he goes back to the right hand. If they play the drive, he'll pull up and shoot. This is the epitome of an efficient superstar. It's coming, man. It's coming. I'm telling you, it's coming. Okay, here we go. Grady Dick has his first career double double, 19 points, 10 rebounds, cutting through, deciding to change midway through, and then deciding I'm actually going to set a screen and get Scotty going downhill against Ben Shepherd instead. And that was perfect. And that creates a foul, and that gets Scotty Barnes to the line. And I believe he missed both free throws. This is funny, if nothing else. Scotty once again operating on the block, inviting that double team, this time from Pascal Siakam. I think this is a very effective double team from Siakam. So now you are getting defended by two of their better defenders, and they are swarming your handle. And here, it's a very easy thing for Scotty to get impatient with himself, to pass, to turn the basketball over. It's also worth noting, Scotty barely turned the basketball over tonight. Two of his turnovers were basically him just stepping out of bounds. Like these were not live ball turnovers. And I think that that influence and this one, just a little scoop up and under going left, you can dig through every play Scotty has had since high school. You're not going to find that play anywhere. Anywhere. He's doing things he's never done before. Love this moment between Jamal Shed and Darko Rajakovic. Really funny. I said season high for Grady, another beautiful dime by Scotty Barnes. How many times did Scotty throw? Now, again, so much of playmaking comes down to the types of passes you can throw, the quality of passes you actually throw, and the quality of shots you actually end up generating. I'm not going to sit here and tell you all 13 of Scotty's assists were mind blowing. Some of them were basically in the flow of the offense assists, the types of stuff that Samson will sometimes criticize Emmanuel quickly forgetting. But some of them were beautiful. And this one, this had a little extra to it. This was beautiful. Here, Pascal Siakam just falls down. Now, some guys can only throw right-handed passes accurately. Some guys prefer to go back to the left hand. Some guys only throw under. Some guys only throw on the move. Some guys are more stationary passers. Scotty is actually a rare passer because he is very good at throwing passes while he's on the move to moving targets. And that to me is the best type of passer. That's Tyrese Halliburton. That's Steve Nash. That's Jason Kidd, LeBron James. The best passers in the world are the ones who are moving while moving targets are setting. Because I mean, think about what I'm saying. So often an Emmanuel Quickly assist is basically him standing still, throwing to a moving target, or him moving and throwing to a stationary target. How often does an Emmanuel Quickly assist come from him moving towards a moving target? It's very rare. It's very rare. And here, Scotty is, I remind you, a right-handed player. But here, he is dribbling with his left hand to shield off the defender. And Brian talked about it yesterday, and he said that that was a huge point of emphasis. Working on his left hand was a huge point of emphasis in their training this offseason. Look at this beautiful pass. First of all, the ability to manipulate, to hold off till the final second, to get the defense to completely commit to him. Because you know what? Scotty will never hold on to a pass longer than he has to. If he passes here to Grady, Johnny Furphy will block this shot. I'll guarantee it. He waits the entire time for Furphy to commit his hips to him and for Grady to get past Furphy for him to pass this. Dude, I will tell you right now, It seems like I'm breaking down the most simple basketball play, but there's absolutely nothing simple about this play. This pass right here is not something that Jalen Johnson, Denny Avdia, and guys like this can make. This pass is only a pass, and I don't mean just a moving pass to a moving target. I mean right hand right hand basketball player with a player on his right hip, left hand dribbling the entire way through. Not so great, not so great paint finisher as his wing finisher, low man, waiting for that low man to commit to you and then passing the millisecond he does. Dude, like the amount of calculus that goes into this is just you can't teach this. But like if I did a fraction by fraction, what is the right watch what I'm saying. Sorry. Just I'm nerding out over this. Point to the mistake, right? This is a flawless fast break. Okay, so first of all, trying to get your hips ahead of the defender so that you force the help, right? So first of all, if this defender cuts you off, Johnny Furphy is not even helping. So you have to get this defender off of you. So you have to get a hip. So now watch exactly when Furphy commits and watch where the pass comes. Uh, 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 uh. You can see right there. It's like a fraction of a second, and Grady is able to get this clean. I promise you, make the pass here, Furphy can still recover. Make the pass here, it's a block. Make the pass here, it's go through this. Make the pass here. I'll guarantee this turns into a Grady pull-up three. Make the pass here, Furphy gets the block. Make the pass here, Furphy gets the steal. Make the pass here, Grady gets the dunk. It's get this guy Lauri Markkanen, dude. Get this guy Lauri Markkanen. Get him Kyrie Irving. Get him some actually great basketball players, bro. Get him Malik Monk. Get him Zach LaVine. No, I don't like the Zach LaVine contract, but if Zach LaVine were ever bought out, I don't think you all understand. Like, this dude is like doing something. Anyways, here the Pacers decide they want to be up, and Nemhard makes it a 4-point game. And then guess what? Brandon Ingram makes a play. CMB tries to set a screen there. They play off of Jamal Shed. They're very late to contest. That's by design. Jamal Shed, zone buster, 103-96, and then back-to-back threes from Brandon Ingram. But also, let's not forget the defense. Let's not forget this defense from Grady Dick and Jamal Shed to stop this very guaranteed bucket from Pascal Siakam. They play this perfectly, and then CMB, just gets dusted here. And this is just lucky, very lucky. This is not good defense, it's just luck. And once again, Scotty Barnes, look at that quick hit ahead in transition. Ingram throws it down to the post, forced two defenders to go to him, and CMB very intelligently gives it right back to Brandon Ingram. Perfect basketball. That's a perfect decision being made by a rookie in duress. Now, we've talked about two different Scotty plays in transition already. Give me a second here to break down a third, just because, again, having just talked to Brian yesterday, I'm really, really honed in on the minor details of Scotty's game right now. Now, you heard me talk about that sort of change of pace. There's another thing that a defender, that an offensive player, especially a good offensive player, will do, which is they'll throw defenders off pivot using their bodies. They'll shield, they'll bump. You see LeBron do it very often. There is a sort of impact in transition where LeBron will take a shoulder into a defender so that he can bump into another defender. It's a way to clear the way. Now, Scottie's not very good at this, and historically has not been very good at this. Scottie 2 years ago is just straight line jumping this the entire way through. But here, there is a immediate calculus that's happening here with Scottie. I have Jamal Shed on my right side. I have Grady on my left side. I have 2 defenders behind me, 2 offensive players behind me. So really, effectively, this is a 3-on-2. Okay. But what's more efficient than a 3-on-2? Especially when the guy that's on my right side, who's probably going to pop up for a 3, isn't a very good jump shooter. The guy who's back, at least the 2 guys who are back, are both kind of bigs. How do you navigate this situation? You see him orient his body to the left. And it's precisely in this moment where I was watching this in real time and I was like, I hope he bumps Bradley. I hope he bumps Tony Bradley to make this a little bit easier for himself at the rim. Because if you don't bump Bradley, then Bradley is basically the recovery on your block. There's a play where Scotty had a transition bucket. It was a guaranteed bucket going downhill. He goes all full steam ahead and gets blocked by Jay Huff. Learning in real time, saying, okay, if Siakam is able to recover here, what are my options? Now compute it all. Like we're looking at a freeze frame here. Most of us maybe don't even remember how this play ended. So what's the right thing to do here? Now, again, I could tell you 2-3 years ago, he's going downhill. He's collapsing. He's probably forcing an awkward finish, probably picking up his dribble, probably throwing it out to Shed or throwing it out to Grady. That's probably how this is going to go. Or he's going to go into Siakam, and by the time he goes into Siakam, Bradley is going to recover and block the shot from behind. Someone's saying bounce pass, maybe. So, again, this is a 3-on-2. But you know what's easier than a 3-on-2? A 3-on-1. How about using all 6'9", 245 and bumping this defender off? That bump right there, you see. And then this little left creates the path to the finish. It's very interesting. You want your star player finishing these plays. You don't want your star player to be a passer in all of these situations. Now, fine. If it's Jaren Jackson and Zach Edey back there, maybe we change the calculus a little bit. Maybe if it's Jay Huff as your recovery, maybe you change the calculus a little bit. If it's Wemby, you change the calculus a little bit. But this is Tony Bradley and Pascal Siakam. You should be able to take these guys. But you're not going to take them both at the same time with one recovering from behind and one recovering from the front. Okay. So you need to do something to manipulate the defense here. And that could be the change of pace. And that's the bump. This is the maturation and growth of Scottie's game. And I promise you, if you're looking at the box score and you're like, 19 points. Yo, the 19 points are totally different. Anyways, we got a caller calling in. Steve-O, what's up? Hello? Steve-O, your mic's off. Yes? No?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. What's up?
Oh, sorry about that. Okay. No worries. Actually, the last play, I was so excited about that last play. There's 3 minutes left in the game, and Scotty Barnes 2 years ago would have made the pass, which technically would have been the right pass. But the fact that he got that bucket, that just to me just says that I love his development. Like that to me is what separated him from being a passer and a franchise player. Right?
Absolutely.
And I just kind of a question. I already know how you're going to answer this, but who is the Raptors leader? Who is their franchise player right now? Scotty Barnes?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So now we have talent on the team. We have Ingram. We have an all-star. You know what I mean? So it was actually I love that play. I love that play. another thing I was going to say is you touched on it with Grady Dick. Even Jack Armstrong said, like, the development with Grady Dick.
Mm-hmm.
I love Grady Dick with Scotty Barnes. I think he's the perfect complement to his game. A cutting 3-point scorer. Yes, can score. It's like you said, has better numbers from the mid range, but a shooter, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know this could be controversial, but like when I look at Grady Dick, I'm like, if I had Grady Dick's skills, I'd be awesome at street ball, right? Like that to me is that's who I would want to be as a player. I would want to be that shooter that can finish at the rim, right? And
why would you choose him? Why wouldn't you choose Kyrie?
Well, Kyrie.
You mean on the Raptors?
No. I mean, like, well, okay. Obviously, if I had Kyrie's handles, it would be
okay. Let's slow play this out. If you could have any player on this team's skill sets for street ball, who would you choose?
Okay, other than the physical assets, because you got to take away.
No, you got to talk skill. So
Just
shooting, passing, ball handling,
purely skill.
Mm-hmm.
I would say I would want to be Grady Dick. I really would. I would say, as far as who am I, like, or
Brandon Ingram's right there.
Brendan Ingram. To be honest with you, like, well, yeah, okay, I know what you're saying, but I'm saying, like, realistically, like he's also how many years younger, right? And
what does that have to do with street ball? I think you're picking Grady Dick because he's a white guy.
okay, all right. I have a question for you then. So hero, Grady Dick or Ingram? Who would you want to be?
Who would I want to be?
Yeah, Ingram.
Yeah, I'd want to be Brandon Ingram.
Well, because you're 6'7", right? Like, well,
I'm not 6'7". I'm 5. I'm 5.
No.
5'11".
Yeah, but in this theory, right? So what I'm trying to say is,
honestly, if I could take any player's skill in the NBA sum total, I would take Kyrie Irving 10 times out of 10. Beyond Kyrie Irving, I would take Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Beyond Shai, I would take I'm thinking probably Donovan Mitchell or Darius Garland, or just from a skill set perspective, maybe Maxey.
no,
Melo,
Doncic,
Luka, Steph. Obviously, I'm stupid.
Oh,
Steph,
yeah. Okay, Steph. We okay. I think we all grew up in a generation. Well, sorry, didn't grow up in a generation. We lived in a generation where Steph was like. I think Steph wrecked the game for a lot of young players in the sense that now they just want to think they can shoot threes, right? But like, as far as like a realistic like skill set, can finish with your left and right around the rim, and then has that under the arm, like that, where he's, you know what I'm trying. I don't know.
Reverse layup.
But with the both left and right, and then has the mid range.
Are you still talking about Grady?
No, I'm talking about Grady.
Okay.
I'm just saying, like, he has that.
Well, respect to Grady, man. Grady sounds dope.
Grady,
Steve, can you please become a general manager of another team so I can trade Grady Dick to you, please?
I'm just trying to say, maybe we shouldn't sell low on him. Anyways, if you, maybe. I don't know. I think like Grady, I hate to hear like people be like a poor man's, right? But a lot what Grady brings to the table, Hero brings to the table. You know what the difference is though? Grady actually tries.
50 times better.
50 in what? His at 23? Grady's only 22. He's a 3-year pro, but he's only 22.
I mean, I hope you realize Tyler Hero at 22 was like had already played in the finals and was awesome.
He had that blow up season, right? So what I'm trying to say is,
Tyler Hero is a borderline all-star. Grady Dick like prior to this game was flirting with future Huangdong Tigers. Like I'm not kidding. Like Grady is this close to Caleb Houston in terms of like having to sign a
Do
two-way
you
on his
really
next
think so
contract.
though? Like
Yes.
I'm
You
to
cannot
me,
you cannot survive in
to
the
me,
NBA as a
confidence.
31% three-point shooter. You cannot survive in the NBA as a weak defender. Like he is the weakest defender, one of the weakest defenders on the team. He is not a good defender. He is not a good finisher. He is not a good three-point shooter right now. And I mean, all of his theory is like, I hope it comes together, man, because there's a lot of things he does well. You just can't like. There's this old Darko quote which said, "If you're good at one thing, I think this is a paraphrasing of the quote. He said, if you're good at one thing, you can probably come off the bench. If you're good at two things, you might be able to be a starter. If you're good at three things, you could be like a superstar in the NBA. If you're good at four things, you're going to be in Europe." And the thing is that Grady has a lot of skill sets. There's like the movement shooting, there's the three-point shooting, the spot up stuff, there's the rebounding, the transition play, the paint finishing, the driving, the floater range stuff. We're doing so much, right? There's the secondary playmaking stuff. Now we're seeing some screen setting, like he's a 6'8" power forward. Like there's a lot of places where his game can go right, but at some point you do need to find a way to get on the court because you're not one of the best players on your team. So now you have to find a way to fit with Ingram. And the only times that he has really had success in the NBA is frankly when he's had very, very, very featured usage, right? So at the end of his rookie season, when the Raptors, all bets were off, tanking completely, we saw, 50% from three. We saw a huge resurgence and there was a lot of hope. To start the beginning of last season, a lot of injuries, clearly walking into the season with no expectations of the playoffs. Again, a lot of mid-range usage, a lot of free reign. I compared him to Dražen Petrovic, who's one of my favorite players of all time, and I felt really awkward about doing it, but I was like, man, I cannot ignore how good what I'm watching is. The truth is, he has not been able to put this together for more than a month ever.
All right. So there's a saying, I don't know if you've heard it before, but you can't sew a silk purse out of a sow's ass.
You can't sew a
A
silk
silk
purse
out of a sow's ass.
A sow? What's a sow?
It's basically like a baby cow. So
You mean
it's a
a
really,
calf?
really old say. It's a really, really old saying, but basically you
I
can't
thought a
make
baby cow was a calf.
it is. So a sow. Actually, I'm going to look it up. I don't know if it's a baby bull or something, but I don't even know what a sow is myself. I just know the saying. Okay. Actually, I'll Google it right now. But
It's a female pig.
female pig. Yes. Yeah, that makes more sense. Okay. Anyways, it's my quote, and I don't even know how it goes. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is, I think so much of in the NBA it's about role, right? Like it's about like do you think Hero it when Hero blew up, he had that one huge season, and then all of a sudden he was that all-star, right?
I don't think he's ever made. Has he made an all-star team?
No, I don't think he made the all-star that year, but then the year after that, I think it was his second season in the league, his third season. Everybody was talking about him like he was an all-star, but I don't think he played enough games to really make a real conversation about it, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, what I'm trying to say is, I think with Grady Dick is about confidence, and with what you say about defense, I agree with you 110%. But at least I see him trying. I don't see him giving up on plays. Like, yes, he turns his back on the ball, and it's that whole like you turned your back on the ball, and now they have an open shot, right? But there's a lot of like I think there's a lot of development with Grady, but I think what Grady has is a very similar package to a poor man's hero. And like I said, I hate to hear that comment about a poor man's, but don't think there's much that Tyler, Tyler Hero can do other than put up 25 points a game that Grady can't. You know what I mean by like that package? And I think with
Tyler
Scotty,
Hero is okay. So first of all, Tyler Hero is a career 38% 3-point shooter. Career. Okay.
yeah, I'm looking it up too.
Like
I wanted to see what's Grady. Grady's not. It's his second season wasn't bad, but
Tyler Hero is better ball handler, better playmaker, better. He's
a better player. But
he's better across the board. So you
yeah.
saying like all he can do is put up 25? I mean, dude, there was a year where he shot 94% from the free throw line.
Okay, so last year when everybody was so huge on
So
Grady,
he was an all-star last year. So that's why I was a little bit confused because I think you said like in his second year or third year he was an all-star.
his second year, he had that big playoff run that you were talking about, I believe, where he just, I don't think
It was his
third year or second year.
It was his rookie year.
Was it his rookie? Oh yeah.
Yes. He was in the
Sorry.
finals as a rookie and he averaged 16 points per game in the playoffs. He was awesome.
But during the season that year, you're going to look it up faster than I am. But during the season that year, he didn't have huge numbers. That season, I think
He
it was
averaged
14. This is off the top of my head.
13 and a half in 27 minutes. But again, once again, 39% from three. Look,
Okay.
we could forgive a lot of stuff with Grady. If we get 39% from three, a lot of it is forgivable.
Fair enough. But what I'm trying to say is we're so high on Grady. Like last year, like when everybody was high on him, averaging 14 points a game, he was also averaging double the minutes, right? So this year he's averaging 6. So that would mean with 30 minutes a game, he'd be averaging 12, right? So I don't know. I'm not.
It's not always going to work that way. It's not like a 1-for-1. I think more so than anything, there just hasn't been a positive progression in his analytics. Like the only thing that you can definitively say has gone up this year is his free throw rate, and it's marginally up. So like the last couple of years, he's just a better at getting to the line, and the fact that his free throw rate is high, given that his usage is lower, is pretty cool. But like his usage is the lowest it's ever been this year. So he has a 16.8% usage. It was 21% last year, 17.4 the year before. But we are also seeing a statistical regression in terms of box plus minus. And I mean, again, these are honestly, these are Malachi. These are numbers that will put Malachi Flynn to shame. Okay. Here's his box plus minus in the last 3 years. So rookie season, negative 5.4. Sophomore year, negative 3.2. This year, negative 3.8. On a team that desperately has given him every opportunity, here's his value of replacement year over year. Negative 1.1, negative 0.5, negative 0.3. Value of replacement is cumulative. So if he continues to play at the rate that he's playing right now, he's probably going to end up exactly at around negative 0.6 this year. I mean, look, it's not unforeseen that a guy like this could have a major jump in year 4. It could happen. It really could.
Well, I'm not even.
The problem is, what evidence do you have other than optimism, just wishful thinking that he will? You're talking about a guy who shot 36% from three as a rookie, 35% from three as a sophomore, and is shooting 30% from three this year. That is going in the wrong direction, right? The free throw shooting is also going in the wrong direction. 86%, 85, 86%, 85%. I mean, it's not exactly like we're going in the right direction in any one number. Like there's nothing that's trending in the right number. His field goal percentage is going in the wrong number. 42.5, 41, 30, 39.7. It's all going down. The question is, and honestly, like I think a lot of people have talked about his work ethic. A lot of his teammates have, come to his defense and said, "Oh, he's working super hard." But I also heard some stuff this summer that he wasn't working so hard. That he hasn't been able to, get in. He's just not strong enough. You know what I mean? Like there's a wiriness to him. He's just not. I think there's a mental component to this as well.
I believe it's a lot mental, but
that's a big problem.
But
basketball is mental.
Oh, I know. I understand. Well, actually, I wrote down a couple points that not about Grady Dick, but about other players that I wanted to say. But a lot of it is coaching, right? So, okay, I'll get into my next point. I'll maybe we'll get back to Grady, but honestly, Darko, I think coach, if the Raptors finish top 3 in the East, coach of the year, like I was watching a play where it was in the first, and Darko just looked at Shet. I'm watching it on TV, obviously, because whatever. But I'm looking at he's giving out to Shet, and I'm like, out of all the players that like, no, he just looked at Shet, and then he said something, and it reminded me of like that's how your dad gives out to you in the sense he just
Sure.
looked like that's
Who,
how I
who would be your top 3 finishes for coach of the year?
top 3.
If Darko is winning, who are your top 3?
I don't think Darko's winning this year, but I think he should have something in the race. Let me just take a look here.
So some examples
NBA.
from the coaching tree of, I mean, Ime Udoka, Jordan Ott, Jordy Fernandez potentially, but probably not going to get any love. David Adelman, Darko Rajakovic, obviously. There's some really good ones.
Okay. You want to go through it team by team? So okay.
Well, no, not really. I was just curious if you're
No,
saying because you said Darko Rajakovic needs to win, should win if the Raptors what?
If the Raptors finish top 3 in the East, I think
You said he should win. So that's why I said
he
if
should get
Raptors
some
finish top,
recognition. But
what is some recognition other than
okay,
coach of the year?
okay.
There's not a first team all
So
coach.
we look at OKC, and they went up to super hot start. Obviously, the game if the season was to end in 30 games, like they would have won. Like you look at the standings. I'm looking at Denver, and I'm like looking at them like how are they winning without Jokic? You know what I mean? Detroit is like you look at these teams and like
Okay. I mean, I just want a simple who are your top 3 coaches of the year? That's really all I want to know. If you don't know their names, you can just tell me the teams. Is OKC one of those teams? Is that why you're talking about OKC?
To be honest with you, I look at how they got off to a super hot start, and I'm looking at like
What does that have to do with coach of the year, though?
they lost what? Okay, all right. I don't know. I just don't feel. I feel like Darko is okay. Really, at the end of the day, how I feel about Darko is, I feel Darko won't win us a championship, but I feel like he'll fit the groundwork to win us a championship. I think he'll be the Sam Mitchell for what the Raptors were. Like Jody Fernandez, great coach, in my opinion. Like there's a lot of
the Sam Mitchell. You mean the Dwayne Casey?
Or sorry, the Dwayne. Sorry. Yeah. I mean, I really actually meant the Dwayne Casey. Yeah.
Okay, got you.
Anyways,
any final thoughts, man?
Okay. So my biggest thing is with the Raptors. I believe a lot of like the NBA is about roles. It's about how your team or how your coaches believe in you and stuff like that. I think I could find 9 starters. So basically, when I look at the playoffs, I look at you should have at least 9 starters that could start for any team. And then I believe, okay, if one gets hurt in the finals, you still have a chance, right? But I think we have 9 I think we have 9 starters that could start for any team. And then this is where I believe that if you wanted to make a big move now, I do believe now kind of is the time to make a big move. And I know like there's a lot of like floating around about Morant, about Ball, about like a lot of these players, but really you can make an argument for any one of these players. Like, but our biggest problem is their size. Like we need.
I don't think we have 9 starters. I don't think we have 5 starters, but hey, man.
Do you think we have 8? Do you think CMB could start potentially for any team?
No.
Do you think no? You don't think CMB could start? You don't think CMB could start for any team and hinder their affect their winning ratio?
Any team? Hell no. No. I couldn't. I can't imagine that. I think it's a pretty big miracle that he's starting for us. And I hope that I think one day he will be a starter. Anyway, Steve-O, man, thank you so much for calling in. Appreciate you.
All right. Have a good night. All right.
Good night. Okay. Man, I got to share something with you guys. Okay, so hang on one second. I'm gonna snap through this. Okay, this is gonna be real fast, just to give y'all a taste of it. I promise I won't dilly-dally too much with the editing. Shout outs to Steve-O for calling in, being a good sport. But check this out for a sec here. His little preview of the members live with the gem. So tell us, our audience is very invested in you. Is a weird thing because I'm pretty sure a lot of our audience, their favorite player is Scotty Barnes. You're a huge part of what Scotty's doing. So they're very invested in what you're doing. So, obviously with Handle Life, everything you were doing, they were very invested in that. But now you're doing the gem. Tell me about the gem. Tell me how it came about. Tell me what is it about? Yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah, sure. So first off, thanks for having me on. Thanks for all your support to the Raptors and Scotty. I jump in the live sometimes, and it's always funny. It's funny to see your evolution and how much calmer you are than we started, and just to see how the channel has grown. And even you're covering the Spurs as well. So kudos to you and all your success. But yeah, the gym is just
proof that Brian is the fucking prophet. Hang on, I'm just gonna snap to any part of this and a lot more on those drives, to the point where sometimes it's all
manipulate the defense. I think that helps a lot. More veteran.
How has that impacted him, being around that level of refinement, shot making, all that stuff? This is about the impact of having Brandon Ingram. In fact, it is a lot of what BI does that I envision Scotty being able to do a few years from now. So how has that impacted him, you think, being in the same practice gym with Brandon Ingram, guarding Brandon Ingram, watching Brandon Ingram? Scotty's talked many times about BI's footwork, BI's handle, stuff like that. So how do you think that's impacted him?
I think it's great for young players to be around. I'm not saying BI is old, but just to be around more veteran, especially offensive players. You've seen it with Tatum. Think about the guys who've been around Tatum, like Isaiah Thomas, Kyrie. He's had super vets. You know what I mean? So I think it helps. It helps them to understand how to work on certain different things, and just how they manipulate the defense. You know what I mean? You can see them how they manipulate the defense. I think that helps a lot. So yeah, I think that just having older guys around you. He had Pascal. I think he picked up some things around from Pascal. So the same thing with BI. Just seeing how they manipulate the defenses. Everybody manipulates the defense differently. So not saying that Scotty's going to be able to manipulate the defense the same way that BI does, or Pascal, or any other guy, but it just helps him understand coverages, and just you can see it. You're seeing it live. So I'm sure that helps him.
Yeah. I gotta be honest, calming down. Let me tell you how I've tried to do it. Now, I'm not perfect. I'm nowhere close. Lord help me. I know. Once a week. But I realized that, and this is not just for people who rage out or crash out. I'm talking about people who have anxiety. I'm talking about people Y'all know, people who watch these lives, that sometimes I like to leave the last 5 minutes of this live. I like to leave with something life related. So let me leave with something life related. If you're somebody who goes through emotional highs and lows, sometimes suffers through depression, sometimes suffers through anxiety, sometimes gets a little hot headed, sometimes you have impulse control problems, maybe you procrastinate a lot. If you're someone who has bad credit, no credit, no, I'm just kidding. My point is, if you're somebody who goes through these things, it's possible that you maybe beat yourself up about it. Maybe you think that you don't have a right strategy around it. But the truth is that there's probably an imbalance somewhere in your diet, in your lifestyle, and most certainly your brain that is making it hard for you to deal with these things as they come up. One of the solutions that I have found is actually this. Believe it or not, it's it's this. So there has to be a moment, and I think most normal people have this moment between stimulus and reaction, right? Like, some people have impulse control problems, some people don't. Some people are great at impulse control management. Some people can walk past, you know, a distraction. Some people see a distraction and they're distracted, they're lost for 8 hours. So this little thing, you can use a snow globe as well, by the way, right? It's just about giving yourself a pause between the event and the reaction, and then giving yourself the permission to still react after the time has elapsed. So you're not suppressing your reaction. You're not saying, like, oh, I can't be angry, or I can't be sad, or I can't be anxious. But when the impulse comes up, so case in point, my rent is due and I don't know how I'm going to pay for that. I might be in trouble. Okay, that provokes anxiety. That provokes fear about the future. Okay, cool. So take this timer, put it down, and then tell yourself, I had that fear, I'm gonna put it away. And 2 minutes later, or a minute later, or 80 seconds later, when this timer runs out, if I still want to react to it, I can still react to it. It's the same thing if somebody cuts you off in traffic. It's the same thing if somebody pisses you off online. It's the same thing when you get a pissy email from somebody and you immediately start writing this email. They often used to give you this hack. They said, write the email and save it to the draft, and the next morning you won't want to send it. And it's very often that we have an impulse control problem. The second thing is, cults sometimes use shame to get people to behave in a different way. And we often, especially in today's society, have this idea of like shame is a bad thing. I'm not actually sure that shame is a bad thing. I think shame keeps you from doing terrible things. There's a lot of things that are shameful in this world, for some people. Not having washboard abs is shameful. They can't go to the beach if they don't have washboard abs, so they focus on their diet and their exercise, and they go to the gym. For some people, not having hair is shameful, so they get transplants, or they spray black spray paint all over their head like Jalen Brown. My point is, shame doesn't have to be a bad thing. It can sometimes be a great motivator to do something positive with your life. And I think that sometimes one of the best ways to not do terrible things, like crashing out on people online, is to maybe view that behavior in a different way. View it as beneath yourself, view it as shameful, view it as what it is: embarrassing. It's embarrassing. And there's a couple of times when people have said, like, I can't believe you're 36 years old or 37 years old and you're reacting this way to people on the internet. And I've always kind of had this dismissive attitude towards it and have said, you know what, you're never too old to crash out, whatever. But the truth is, you're supposed to get better at this as you get older. There is an aggression decline as men get older, right? There's an aggression peak around, I think, like 22, 23, whatever. A lot of guys get that massive testosterone peak where everything makes you pissed off, and then you slowly start declining. You're supposed to become a little bit calmer. And yeah, I guess I just didn't. I mean, honestly, like, a lot of things pissed me off, and I'm learning to let go of those things. And I got to tell you, my life's a lot better. a lot better, learning to laugh at certain things, learning to get past certain things. So I think the shame thing is very important. Looking at behavior like being late, looking at behavior like smoking, looking at behavior like day drinking, and saying, that's not me, that's beneath me. I don't want to do that. Even looking at gambling, like for instance, sports gambling, sports betting, these things. I have a hard line in my head where I say that type of behavior is beneath me. I wouldn't do it because I understand the mechanism behind it. I understand the machine that it feeds. It's the same thing as taking sports betting sponsorships into this channel. So yes, I think that that helps. I think that helps tremendously. So yeah, crashing out on somebody for being inebriated, or crashing out on somebody for having a different opinion than you online is quite a weird way to create a hostile environment in which different opinions can't come in. I mean, there was this caller earlier in the year, Shannon, who a lot of you remember, or you'll at least remember his fan. And we were able to have a pretty peaceful discussion about RJ Barrett, even though we're poles apart in terms of the player that we think RJ Barrett is. That's probably how this should go. That's how good debate should go. It shouldn't be a screaming match. It shouldn't be one person trying to embarrass another person. And frankly, when it does turn into that, I think both parties should be ashamed, because that's not really what this is supposed to be about. So, yes, um, it's a personal evolution for sure. It's not a scripted evolution, and I promise you, if I still felt like what I was doing was right, I would still be doing it, and I'm stubborn that way. But I've realized, precisely through watching people like Brian, watching people like Scotty, knowing people like other people in my life that have come in through my life through basketball, I've noticed that, the calmer approach is likely not only the more peaceful approach for me and the better approach for me, but also like just from a business standpoint, it's a better approach. I'm not a very calculated person, but this calculation is very simple to make. It's also better for your health. It's way better for your health. Anger leads, anger, anxiety, stress. These are silent killers. So you will absolutely live a shorter life if you're constantly getting angry, if you're a screamer, if you're somebody who lives in a lot of fear, a lot of panic. There's a reason why people who are poor tend to have poorer health. And I promise you, it's not just because they don't have Whole Foods access, and access to like cleaner food and better water. It's not just that. It's just that there is a predictive element of stress creating early demise in people's lives. And it's one thing when that stress was our ancestors being chased by lions and tigers. It's another thing when that stress is, this person doesn't think exactly what I think about basketball. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. Anyways, I will talk to y'all later. This has been a pretty cool live. And shout outs to Brian for, dope conversation yesterday. My girlfriend asked me after I got out of it. She's like, "How did it go?" And I said, "I have no idea, but I feel happy." And that's genuinely how I felt. I have no idea if it's a great interview. I hope it's a good one. I hope we can edit it into a good one. But that was not the goal. The goal was to talk to a friend and have a meaningful conversation about my favorite player, a player that he has had a huge hand in developing, a player who just had one of his best games of the season, and a player who he said in that interview has not yet played his best basketball of the season. I'm looking forward to that when that comes. All star, all NBA, all defense. Who knows? Maybe more. I'll talk to y'all later. Have a great one. Shout outs to Grady Dick. Shout outs to the Toronto Raptors. It gets tough from here, man. Hopefully the Raptors can start getting healthy soon. And yes, tomorrow we'll definitely do a show about the Raptors, potentially, according to Jake Fisher, dangling Jakob Pertl, Emmanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett. Ironically, three of the players who didn't play tonight in trade talks, and potentially looking at guys like Anthony Davis. Could that package of players be what it takes to get Lauri Markkanen if you add a whole bunch of picks? Who knows? Certainly games like this from Gradey will help to improve his trade value a little bit, but I'm not holding my breath out. I still think he's a pretty neutral to negative asset across the league. And I think, you know, to the point that the earlier caller was making, I myself have made comparisons between Grady Dick and Tyler Hero, Grady Dick and even like Devin Booker when he was younger. But after 2 years, 3 years of looking at this, it's really the G League stints, the summer league stints. We're talking a lot of basketball, okay? We're talking Kansas, less than 30 games or 30 games. Now we're talking NBA. We're talking like between summer league, G League, NBA. We're talking about a sample size that exceeds Kansas by like 5. And as a person who leans on my eye test and the numbers, I cannot tell you that there's any reason to believe this is still going to work out. And given all of that, I still hope that it's going to work out because I'm a Raptor fan and I want him to do well. Peace.